everyone, welcome to another edition of Where the 99 Lead. I'm Andrew Joyce, your host, and Where the 99 Lead, it's a program brought to you by the University of Pikeville, where we discuss those historic 99 steps that not only lead to campus, but from campus back into the community and into the world. We discuss many different subjects on Where the 99 Lead, academics, athletics, different programs available, and of course, the Kentucky College of Optometry, and of course, the Kentucky College of Osteopathic Medicine. We'll talk with two students from there today and about KYCOM's recent medicine mission trip. It's an annual event. We'll find out all the details today. We're joined by a special guest, second year students at KYCOM, Lucas Friedley. Lucas, welcome in.
Thank you.
Before we go any further, let's find out more about you, where you come from and how you arrived at UPike.
I'm from small town Traverse City, Michigan. I went to Michigan State University for undergrad and got my bachelor's in microbiology. And I'm here in Pikeville.
And you've wiped out that first year.
I
What's
have.
that feeling like to come back as a second year student?
Oh, it's amazing. It's so much better the second time around. For sure.
A lot of nerves, a lot of pressure, very little sleep in
That's
the
right.
first year, correct?
Correct, for sure.
That's what I've heard.
Yep.
You're joined by Aaron Sondgerath, second year student as well at KYCOM. Give us a little of your background.
So I'm from Lafayette, Indiana, which is a little bit north of Indianapolis, and I went to Purdue University, go Boilers. I got an undergrad in general health sciences there, and then took a year off, and then I came here.
Very good. Also second year student.
Yes.
I've spoken with first year students, and they are so much more tense than you guys are. You look so relaxed today, that second year, and it's already underway. As we're recording today, you've already been in class for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Yep.
How have classes been different second year than the first 2 weeks of first year classes?
A lot of the courses we have now are more clinical, so it's actually really interesting to be able to apply the first year's material to a more clinical level. And it makes me feel more like a doctor every day at class, which is great.
Very good. And what are your plans for the future upon becoming a doctor? Do you have your game plan laid out that far yet?
I'm getting there. I'm not sure yet as far as a specialty I'd like to go into, but I am interested in either emergency medicine or general surgery.
Right.
But we'll see.
You've still got a year or so to make those decisions, but I know many of the students I've spoken to, they have those dreams of where they would like to be. I know sixth graders that want to be a heart surgeon. That far out, that's what they dream of. Aaron, what about you? Future plans?
So I want to do something in pediatrics. Right now I'm looking at pediatric emergency medicine, but again, we have so much more to experience and see before we really nail that down.
Yeah. 1 year's under the belt, but still a little ways to go. You guys do look much more relaxed. Lucas, KYCOM students have participated in a medicine mission trip each summer for a number of years. Many of your now doctors have participated in those trips. Tell us about the trip and which organizations are involved and why KYCOM returns to the Dominican Republic each year.
So KYCOM sends a group of students to the Dominican Republic, specifically to a small village called Bate Nueve, and we go to the same area every year. And one of the reasons why we do this is because we've established a good working relationship with Go Ministries. They're the lead ministry organization that is based out of Louisville, and they help plan this trip for us every year.
Have you been on other mission trips prior to this past year?
I personally have not, so this is my first experience being on a mission trip, and it was an amazing experience for sure.
Tell us about the trip. How long does it last? How long were you there? And talk about preparation for this year's trip.
We were there for about a week, give or take, and but leading up to that, we spent the entire previous year, fundraising and getting a hold of medications and planning what we were going to take with us and learning more about the area and the people that we would be treating. And so it's a whole year's worth of planning.
What other organizations are involved? Go Ministries and of course KYCOM.
Yep.
With that, those are the organizations involved?
That's correct. And within KYCOM, we have two student-led groups that are focused on the trip, the one being the medical mission trip. which everybody that went on the trip was part of that group, as well as the Rotaract Club. Every member that went on the trip also had to be a part of the Rotaract Club.
Very good. Now, Lucas, you say that this was your first mission trip.
Correct.
Aaron, was this your first? Had you been on others before?
I had been on 2 previously, one to Honduras and one to Peru during my undergrad. And this trip definitely was a lot different. In my previous trips, similar idea. So a week-long trip, you go down, you start up clinics, and you spend 8-10 hours serving the people there, and then, but the difference came to where at the end of the clinic day, we went back to our hotel or wherever else we were staying, and we're kind of separated from the community, and we didn't get the chance to really understand the culture and make connections with the people like we did in the Dominican.
Right.
Which was, I think, one of the biggest impacts for me was just getting to see the people on a daily basis and seeing familiar faces and having conversations and learning about them.
In speaking to other groups that have traveled to the Dominican Republic in years past, this is a very rural area, is it not?
Yes.
So it's not a quick trip back to the hotel.
Well, right. So in this trip, we didn't stay at a hotel, which was really neat. So, we stayed, our girls' dorm was actually right above the pastor's house, so which was right across the street from the church.
Sure.
Where we held the clinics. The boys' dorm was right next to the nutrition center where all the kids came every day to get meals.
Sure.
So it was really, you walked out of your dorm every morning to go get breakfast, and there were kids coming up to you and wanting to play, and it was really neat how immersed we were in the community.
You became a part of that community.
Correct, yeah.
For that week and lived life as a member of that community as well. I would imagine that was different because many mission trips, while you do whatever the projects are that day, and then you disconnect from that and you become a regular member of the world again, a tourist again, if you will. This is a 24-hour mission by being immersed into the community. How was that different for you? Do you feel like that you gained more from this trip than some of the others where you became tourist part-time and mission worker the other time?
Yeah, definitely. I think for us to kind of see how they live, how they go through their daily lives, to make those connections and then see them in a medical setting was so much more meaningful to me, just because you're not just treating any random person, you're treating your neighbor now at this point, your friend that you've met. And you really understand their background a little bit more than you would have if you had just came in, done your work, and left.
Right. Very rural area, and medical care is tough for those people. Many times they only see a doctor, maybe that one time a year, as mission groups come in. What are some of the medical conditions you saw in the Dominican Republic?
So we saw a lot of parasitic infections. So frequently you'll have kids that complain of not eating, they have a little bit of protrusive stomachs. We saw some fungal infections, lots of skin, rash type things, anemia, dehydration. I would say those are probably the most common.
And what is the availability of medical care to the community?
So we were talking to the pastor, and it was actually really interesting to find out. So a hospital that would give you the best medical care, I guess, in the surrounding area is about 45 minutes away. They have they call it kind of like a first aid station that's about 30 minutes away. But one of the main problems for this is there's no good access to get there. So the pastor was kind of telling us stories about how he acts as the ambulance driver. So community members will come up to him and say, hey, so-and-so is really sick, they need to be seen. And so he'll try to find a vehicle, one that has gas in it, and he can actually get there.
Sure.
And he just told some crazy stories about, getting people there on motorcycles. And it was very interesting to hear. Now, Bate Nueve is they have a building in process that they're building a clinic. And it was actually started by a private donor, but they're still working on the funds to get that up and running and everything.
What is the food and water situation? Do they have clean water? Do they have a clean food supply? You talk about the different types of medical conditions they have. to a layperson, it seems that that might be related to not the best water in the world.
Yeah, so from my understanding, their water there is definitely not healthy for us to drink, and I think frequently not healthy for them to drink as well. Although they are a little bit more used to some of the microbes that you find in the water, so their body wouldn't react quite as quickly as ours would react since we aren't used to it. But you definitely see, I would say for the most part in the village, people had food, but they also have the nutrition center. So this nutrition center feeds the kids rice and beans and juice, I think, on a daily basis, and that's some of the children's only meal for the day. So yeah, it's not easy to come by, we'll put it that way.
Eye-opening, I would
Yes.
imagine. I would imagine. Lucas, volunteers traveled to the homes of patients who were either immobile or too sick to travel to the clinics. What care were you able to provide those patients?
So in a couple instances where a patient couldn't make it into the clinic, we would send a group of students with a healthcare provider, and we would go to their homes, inside their homes, speak with them, figure out what their problems were, and then we would actually send students back to our clinic, get some medication, and take it back to them. And in some instances too, we actually performed OMT, which is osteopathic manipulative treatment. And it was really awesome. There were a couple instances where, people would be sitting out, not on an actual OMT table that you would see in a doctor's office here in the States, but, just like out on their lawn chair or something, and we would go up to them and just perform the technique on them, and you'd see the results right there. And it was really rewarding to see that, see them to get the benefit from our treatment, and see their faces when they realize they don't even have to come in to the clinic to get that.
Absolutely. For those that are tuned in, for those that have never been on one of these trips or to the Dominican Republic, let's try to paint a picture. What's travel like as you're traveling to their homes? Number one, let's talk about that. You say a group of students goes to their homes. Talk about the travel.
So traveling wise, big difference from what we see back here in Pikeville. All of their roads within Bate Nueve were not paved, just dirt roads or gravel. And we walked everywhere as a group. We had some buses that would take us to and from the different villages, too far to walk for us. But for the most part, when we were focused in Bate Nueve, we would just walk to and from the houses and then take medicine with us that way.
And the houses that you encountered, you go into their homes to treat these that are either too sick or just simply immobile. Describe the homes to us.
Homes were not like anything I've ever seen here back in the States. Definitely the opposite of what I'm used to. People would hang what would be a prized possession of theirs on the wall, but to us we might see it as something that you might put in an attic or something you wouldn't really think much of, but to them that's of something that's of high value.
Sure.
And it's really cool and eye-opening to see them take objects, whether it's a small flag of a a college football team back here in the States, or something that that they see with high regard, and they'll hang it up in their house.
Right. Many of the things we take for granted.
Yep.
Running water, clean running water, drinkable water, air conditioning. Is it available?
To an extent, yes, but not. I haven't seen air conditioning so much. There was none of that to my knowledge. And clean water, very scarce. For me personally, I didn't shower once on the trip, which was big change for me, what I'm used to. But they really go out of their way to conserve as much water as they can, even if it's not the most clean water.
Something that we've heard about here in the States much of the summer for the last several months, the Zika virus. And it's something that many that have traveled worldwide have had concerns, as we've heard about the recent Rio Olympics and concerns of traveling there. Was it something that was talked about before your trip?
Absolutely. Yep, we were well informed ahead of time of the trip, that we were going to an area where Zika virus is a big concern. And while we were on the trip, we took necessary precautions. Everybody would have big mosquito net that we would draw over our bunk beds every night, and so that would keep us protected somewhat from the mosquitoes and other insects while we were sleeping. But then, of course, we made sure we took plenty of mosquito repellent and other repellents with us.
Very good. You're tuned to Where the 99 Lead, a program brought to you by the University of Pikeville. Today we discuss the recent Kentucky College of Osteopathic Medicine Mission Trip, an annual trip to the Dominican Republic, and joined by second-year students Lucas Friedel and Aaron Sondgerath, second-year students at ChiCom, and discussing their experiences on this recent mission trip. Lucas, in addition to the clinics, the medical care, there were other ways that this group served the community there in the Dominican. How was the group able to serve, for instance, the children?
So for the children, which we spent a lot of time with the children, for the days that we had the clinics, we would also have groups that would lead a youth ministry with them and do fun activities with the kids and really get them involved with us and our group, even if it wasn't directly through the clinic. And one of my fondest memories of spending time with the children was just playing games with them outside in the streets, they had this field that was set aside for sports games, soccer and things like that, and it was fun, and just spending time with them, having that kind of human connection and just having a good time.
Sure.
It was fun.
How did they receive this group?
They welcomed us with open arms, and the night that we got there, it was late at night, the sun had already gone down, and it was hot, and mosquitoes everywhere, and all the people of the town were already there welcoming us and cheering for us, and it was a big welcoming committee.
Glad to see you there.
Yep.
Glad to see you there. Aaron, ChiCom students begin preparing very early for this trip. I would imagine plans are being made for next year, and a lot goes into fundraising, collecting items that are taken with you to the Dominican Republic as well. Talk about some of the activities that you do and your fellow students do to prepare and the items that are collected for this trip.
Yeah, so each person has to cover their own individual costs that are required to get you there. And so we do a lot of fundraising to help cover that, as well as to cover the pharmaceuticals that we bring with us to distribute at the clinics. So we started last year with some just like ChiCom gear. So we sold sweatshirts and t-shirts to either students or family or teachers. And then our next big thing was Hillbilly Days. So that was really exciting for me. It was the first time going to Hillbilly Days.
Yes.
So we had a little tent set up. We sold some food and baked goods. And it was also a good way for us to kind of get our names out there in the community to kind of let people know what we were about. We also did a big golf tournament. So I think we ended up having like 12 teams, somewhere around there, come out and play, and we served them food afterwards and had prizes. It was a great time. Everyone enjoyed it.
Sure.
So those were our main fundraising items that we did. But aside from that, everyone did some of their own personal fundraising too, whether it was raffling off ticketed items that they had purchased, or GoFundMe pages, or just sending letters to their family and friends,
Sure.
kind of letting them know about the trip. Aside from that, we did a lot of donation collecting. So we took a lot of clothing and shoes. We took athletic equipment, so whether that was baseball bats and gloves. We took, what else did we take? Some school supplies and art supplies. And all of that kind of came into play with not only just playing with the kids out in the streets, but also with the children's ministry. They used a lot of that stuff too. But in the future, we're hoping to kind of look to the community more for support for our pharmaceuticals that we're purchasing.
Expand on that a little, because you have medical clinics that you're serving patients there in this very rural community. I would imagine there aren't a lot of meds available there. There's not a pharmacy open 24 hours right around the corner that they can go to, and these pharmaceuticals are very important. Talk about what type of meds are taken with you and how they're dispersed to those patients.
Yeah, so I guess the best way to explain it would be to start with kind of a look into how the clinic runs. So you have a patient that will join the line to the clinic. You have someone there that kind of gives out numbers, or each clinic day was kind of a little different in how they did that. But once the patient gets through there, they come in and they see the triage group. The triage group goes through and takes their vitals, tries to find out what's going on with the patient, and then the patient goes and sees the doctor. The doctor then, again, talks to them, examines them, kind of figures out what they need, what's going on, if they need any more treatment outside of what we can give them, and then fills out prescription form. So then that prescription form goes to our personal pharmacy area that's in our clinic, and then they're able to fill those prescriptions. So everyone gets vitamins, adult vitamins, children's vitamins. We also brought prenatal vitamins. And then aside from that, we had a huge assortment of medications. So anything from antiparasitics to blood pressure medicine to obviously antibiotics, just a huge array. And so the way that we do it, we provide the money that goes towards purchasing these prescription medicines.
Sure.
And Go Ministries has actually started this new thing where they purchase the medicine in the Dominican, so that not only are we coming here to help with their medical, needs, but we're also helping support their, their companies and their businesses.
Sure.
And so they purchase all that, and then our first day when we get there, we pre-package everything. We get everything organized so that when we get to the clinic day, it's really easy to go find the meds that we need and disperse them that way.
Sure. It's a great program, and of course, a lot of preparation goes into the program, the medicine mission trip to the Dominican Republic. And Lucas, I'm sure you put a lot of thought into this trip, your first mission trip. How did the trip actually compare to what your expectations were?
Expectations-wise, I had talked with the students who had gone on the trip the previous summer, so I kind of had some idea of what to expect.
Sure.
But there's really nothing that would compare to actually being there in the Dominican. And I would say the biggest shock factor for me was just spending the entire week, in the heat and not, like I said earlier, not showering and just getting used to the environment and just that big change that I'm not used to back here in the States, where we have all these conveniences and I can access clean drinking water at any moment, and over there it's a lot different in that regard. So it took some adjustment, but after the first day or two, it was I could spend more time down there for sure.
We Americans take a lot for granted, don't we?
That's right.
To both of you, do you have a specific memory, an experience, something that took place during the trip, either with the residents there or the children, that really stood out to you?
For me personally, something that I really enjoyed was just spending time with the children, as I said, and playing games with them. But one particular thing that I noticed that stood out to me the most was I would see a boy walk down the street and he'd have this toy that he had made himself, which was just an old rubber tire, and then he would have like a milk carton that was cut out, attached to a stick, and he would kind of push the rubber tire down the road and try not to get it to fall over, and to him that was a fun activity, that was a game and
Sure.
something to do for fun with his time, and I'd never seen anything like that back here in the States, and back here at home, and myself included, if I do have leisure time, it's I play video games or do something to that aspect, or I have my iPhone with me and social media and stuff, and they don't have anything like that over
Right.
there, and so it's a completely different way of life, and yet these children were having so much fun, and so to see them have fun with the most little of things was truly eye-opening.
Sure. Aaron, how about you? Did you have a memory, an experience that stood out?
Yeah, I thought it was really neat how when we got there, all of the children they found their people, kind of. So each child had their one person that they went to every day. And, whether it was after breakfast or before dinner or after dinner, they went and found that person and played with them.
Right.
And on the last day, we had kind of a going away ceremony, and the whole community came in. They sang songs, they talked to us, thanked us. We went up and thanked them. And at the end of that, I was sitting with the child that I had really gotten close to, and he kept talking to me and whispering in my ear, and at the end he started crying, and I asked him what was wrong, and he said, "Don't go, you should stay."
Right.
And I think for me that was something that really touched my heart, just because I didn't expect to make that kind of a connection.
Sure.
Like I said earlier about comparing to previous trips, it wasn't the same connection that we were able to make there in the Dominican.
Because you were there 24/7.
Yes.
Or 24 for the entire week. Aaron, ChiComm students have a long history of community service, over 7,000 hours, I believe, community service hours logged just last year. How did ChiComm's culture of community service play a role in your decision to attend medical school here in Pikeville?
So when I was looking at medical schools, mission work was a big thing for me. It's something that I foresee myself doing in the future, and I plan to make it a big part of my life. And so at each interview that I went to, it was a question that I asked. So usually I had done a little bit of research beforehand, but I like to hear from the interviewers, their take on it. And when they talked about this mission trip that, so many students were going on, and it was a week where they were just truly submerged in the culture, I found that was really drawing to me, something that I wanted to be a part of. And after going on this trip, I hope to, whether it's during rotations or after I finish all of the medical education, to go back to the same community.
And that little boy will find you again.
I sure hope so.
You nearly teared up talking about that. Every year, there are members of the community that join the ChiComm students and faculty on the trip. What would you tell someone who's considering going on this trip in the future?
Just to really sit and think about it and pray about it. I actually brought my sister along with me. She is not medically oriented at all. She goes to Purdue, and she's an art education major, and she was talking to me about, really wanting to experience mission work, and I told her about our trip, and she sounded really excited, and I think it was really neat for both of us to be there together and to experience it all together. Sure. To see how it was for her the first time being out of the country as well. So I think that mission work and getting out of your comfort zone and seeing, how other people live is very important. A way for you to kind of be happy for what you have back here.
To both of you, after this mission trip, the experience you had, which was different than other mission trips you had been on, how do you think this will impact you as a physician?
I think for me, it's the importance of showing how much you care for your patients. Prior to coming here from medical school, I worked in the ER, and I love the ER setting. I love how fast-paced it is. I like the versatility, the various types of things that come in every day, but something that I kind of got used to was seeing kind of these doctors that were a little bit jaded to their patients coming in, and they weren't able to, put a hand on their back to do the little things that show how much you care. And I think after this trip, it helped me remember that regardless of, the speed that you need to work at or the amount of patients that you need to see, it's the little things that you do that show your patients that you care, that really impact them and make them feel comfortable.
Lucas, what impact do you think this will have on you?
For me, it's kind of similar to what Aaron was saying, and just that when we saw patients down in the Dominican, we saw them as people and not so much as patients.
Right.
And that's something that there's actually a campaign going on in the U.S. here for DOs, and just how with osteopathic medicine, our goal is to see patients more as people and not just as like another patient that's waiting in line. And definitely with the human aspect, many of us spoke Spanish almost the entire time we were treating the patients and seeing the patients. And I've never taken a patient history before completely in Spanish, but this was my first experience doing that, and it was really awesome to just see the impact that we had when we saw people for who they were, and not so much as just somebody that's in a waiting room.
Will you sign up again?
Absolutely, if I can.
Aaron?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a feeling I knew the answer from both of you. Certainly great to hear about the trip and another successful trip. We want to wish you success in your future. Have a great second year, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys down the road as physicians. A couple of great representatives from CHICOM, second-year students Lucas Friedley and Aaron Songerath, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Lead, as we've brought to you information on the Dominican Republic Medicine Mission trip. Where the 99 Leads, it's a program brought to you by the University of Pikeville, the leading university of Central Appalachia. Thanks for tuning in.